There's still a coffee cup sitting across from me. Cold, untouched, lipstick stain shaped like closure. I didn't throw it away. I couldn't. Because the moment I do, it'll mean the last thing she ever left behind in this house is gone, besides the echo. You know what's funny? She always said I was dramatic. Lyle, not everything's a movie. She'd roll her eyes whenever I told her something felt off. But that's the thing about real betrayal. It never arrives like thunder. It's quiet. A phone turned face down. A delayed text. A laugh that doesn't sound like it's meant for you. The morning she stopped being my wife didn't look like disaster. It looked normal. She was humming, making toast, wearing my hoodie because hers didn't match the vibe. And then she said the sentence that's been replaying in my head ever since. Don't wait up for me tonight. Team dinner again. Team dinner. The phrase that replaced, I love you. I nodded, because that's what I do, nod and pretend it's all fine. But something in me felt strange, like a warning bell muffled under 10 layers of hope. I waited until she left. Then I noticed it. Her perfume bottle was gone from the dresser. So was her silver bracelet, the one she said she only wore when she wanted to feel confident. And I just sat there on the edge of the bed, staring at the faint outline of her hairbrush, realizing I didn't have the courage to check where she really went. Not yet. That came later. Later, when I saw the photos. But I'm getting ahead of myself. That night, the power didn't go out. Nothing exploded. No fight. No tears. Just silence. The kind that starts to taste like metal in your mouth. I cooked dinner for two, because muscle memory's cruel that way. She didn't text. Didn't call. Midnight came and went. I left the lights on, because I wanted her to see from the street that I was still awake, still waiting, still stupid. She came home at 3:11 a.m. He dropped her off. I know, because I saw the reflection in the kitchen window before I turned off the light. He leaned over from the driver's seat, said something that made her laugh, then touched her cheek. She didn't stop him. I could have opened the door. I could have shouted or begged or asked why, like the weak man I am. Instead, I watched her walk up the steps, pause, look at the door, maybe sensing I was behind it, and then walk away again. She didn't even try the handle. That was the last time she came home. And by sunrise, there was just one chair at the table. And me, still waiting for coffee to get cold enough to call it over. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a little. I sat at the table, elbows dug into the wood like they were trying to break through to another life. One where I wasn't stupid enough to cook for someone who didn't care if I ate alone. The sky started to turn gray around 5, and that's when it happened. That's when I stood up like something inside me finally cracked open, and I walked straight to the laundry room. Why the laundry room? I don't know. Maybe because it was the one place she always forgot to lie. See, liars can delete texts, hide photos, even smile through guilt. But laundry? Laundry tells the truth. Every time. There it was. Her gym bag. Tucked behind the hamper like it got tired of waiting for her to be honest. She hadn't been to the gym in weeks. Said her schedule was too slammed for spin class. And yet, that bag was heavier than usual. Wet towel. New shirt with tags ripped off. And perfume. Not her usual kind either. This one was sweet. Almost too sweet. Like she was trying to cover something else up. Like she'd been somewhere sweat wasn't the only thing on her skin. I didn't cry. I'm not that poetic. But I did sit on the floor with her bag between my legs, like some pathetic detective in a crime scene that already closed. And then, I don't know what came over me. I pulled her hoodie from the pile and pressed it to my face. I know how that sounds. But that hoodie still smelled like her. Like home. Like the last 6.5 years hadn't just been erased by some stranger's cologne in the passenger seat of a car I didn't recognize. That's when I made the worst decision I've made since marrying her. I picked up her laptop. Now before anyone says I shouldn't have gone through her things, don't. I agree. I shouldn't have. I shouldn't have needed to. But when your heart's been whispering, you're not crazy for months and your brain's been screaming, but maybe you are. You stop listening to both. She never logged out of her email. I didn't even have to try hard. Just opened the browser and there it was. Second tab. A thread labeled Dinners and Plans wine glass with a guy named Graham. Not Thatcher. Not Chase. Not even some flirty name that screams bad decisions. Graham. How utterly boring, which made it so much worse. You want to believe the person destroying your life is at least exciting. But no, just Graham. And this Graham? He sent her poems. Bad ones. And she sent him selfies. One of them in our kitchen. The same kitchen I installed a dimmer in so she could have better light for her Insta stories. I made that kitchen nice for her. And now her smile in it, lips bitten, eyes soft, wasn't for me. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the laptop. I just closed it gently and set it back on the counter. Because at that point, yelling would have only made me look crazy. And I already felt insane enough for loving someone who smiled like that for someone else. That afternoon, she called. Just once. No voicemail. No follow-up text. Just a missed call from a number saved as C. I didn't pick up. Instead, I opened my notes app and typed exactly what I wanted to say if I ever got the courage to speak again. You lied with silence. I walked away with it. I didn't send it. Because I wasn't done being invisible yet. That night, I unplugged the coffee machine. Because in the morning, there'd be no reason to brew anything for two. The next 3 days passed like I wasn't even living them. I worked remotely, half-heartedly filling out supply chain invoices while staring through the window as the neighborhood went on living like nothing had collapsed. Mrs. Henley next door was watering her mums. A kid on a scooter kept wiping out on the sidewalk cracks. And meanwhile, I sat at the dining table, still glancing at the chair across from me like it might explain itself. Corley hadn't come home. Not once. I didn't call. I didn't text. And she didn't either. On the second night, I saw her Instagram story. Just a boomerang of a wine glass clinking against someone else's. No faces. Just background music and high-end countertops. I recognized that kitchen. It wasn't ours. I zoomed in on the cabinets. Dark oak. Expensive fixtures. That backsplash. It wasn't cheap. I'd seen it once. In a photo she'd shown me of her boss's condo. Graham. No last name. Just Graham. Mr. Midwest gentleman, with clean shoes and a smirk. I remember shaking his hand at her work event 6 months ago. He told me I looked like a reliable guy. I remember thinking, what the hell does that mean? Now it made sense. Reliable guy. The one you leave at home when you want to play house somewhere else. I should have walked away right then. Packed my bags. Ghosted the whole damn zip code. But I didn't. Because here's the truth no one wants to admit. It hurts worse to leave without answers than it does to stay and get destroyed slowly. And then, the universe threw me a favor. On the fourth evening, it rained. Not drizzle, thunderstorm. Like the sky finally agreed with me. At 6:43 p.m., I was sitting on the couch in sweatpants I hadn't changed out of when I saw headlights pull into the driveway. Not her car. Not a rideshare. A sleek black Lexus with tinted windows. Engine humming like it didn't care how many hearts it ran over. My chest went tight. The passenger door opened. And Corley stepped out, holding her heels in one hand and clutching her phone like it was the only truth she had left. She didn't run inside. She didn't knock. She just stood there, soaked, as if the storm could wash away what she'd done. Then, the driver's door opened. It was Graham. He didn't look surprised to see me standing behind the screen door. He looked annoyed, like I was the delay in his evening. Corley mouthed something I couldn't hear through the rain. She moved toward the porch, but I didn't move to open it. I just stood there, watching, memorizing the shape of her regret. Then, Graham said something, just loud enough to carry. Come on, Cor. He already knows. Let's not pretend. Cor. He called her Cor. No one calls her that. Not even me. Something inside me snapped. But not in the way you'd think. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I simply unlatched the door, stepped out into the rain, and walked past her. Past him. Past the car. Down the driveway. Into the street, with nothing but my wallet and the clothes on my back. I didn't say a word. No goodbye. No last speech. Just thunder behind me and silence in my chest. I kept walking. I didn't even look back. I didn't go far that night. Not really. Not physically, at least. I walked 3 miles through the rain, down the dim streets of Northwood, past gas stations and shuttered laundromats, until I got to the old Keyline storage facility where I used to do inventory contract work. I knew the night security guy, rich, quiet guy, chain-smoked menthols and hated confrontation. When I showed up soaked and pale and didn't say much, he just nodded, handed me his spare keys, and said, Unit 209's empty. Don't break anything. It smelled like dust and metal, but it was private and quiet. That night I didn't cry. I just lay on the concrete floor with a roll of my old camping gear as a pillow and let my brain replay every laugh, every dinner, every time I fixed the wobbly shelf she never thanked me for. Over and over. Like punishment. She didn't call. Not that night. Not the next day either. But on day 2, something shifted. I woke up to 22 missed calls. 12 from her. 4 from her mother. 3 from numbers I didn't recognize. And 1 from my job, asking if I was okay because someone claiming to be my emergency contact said I might have had a mental health crisis. She told them that. Corley actually told other people that I'd gone unstable, that I just cracked. That was when I realized she wasn't just covering up what she did. She was rewriting the story, painting me as the fragile husband who'd wandered off, probably overreacting, maybe even paranoid. And that, Reddit, is when my silence stopped being weakness. It became my weapon, because if she wanted to pretend I disappeared, then I'd make sure she never found the real me again. No dramatic texts, no revenge posts, no yelling, just quiet erasure. First thing I did was deactivate every account tied to our shared life. Netflix, Spotify, the Amazon Prime account she used for her wine deliveries, all gone. Then I cleared my savings. Not much, but enough. I emptied the drawer of my documents, ID, passport, and went dark. Then I sent one email. Just one. To my boss. Family emergency. Need leave. Will follow up with documentation. Thank you for understanding. Vague, but believable. And just enough to keep my name from floating around like a missing person. You know what happened next? Corley showed up at the storage unit. Day 3. I have no idea how she found me. Maybe she guessed. Maybe she tracked something I forgot to disable. But there she was, pounding on the roll-up door like a woman who just realized the man she ignored was no longer her audience. Lyle, open this damn door. Lyle. I didn't move. She shouted for 10 minutes straight. Banged, pleaded, even screamed my name like she cared. But I sat on the other side, in the dark, breathing quietly, wondering what version of me she was imagining in that moment, pathetic or powerful. And then silence. She was gone again. Later that evening, I walked out to check the parking lot. Her car was still there, but she wasn't inside it. Instead, there was a note under the windshield wiper. It said, "If you keep doing this, we'll both regret it." We. Like this was mutual destruction. Like she hadn't already lit the match. That's when I knew. She wasn't sorry. She was scared. Not of losing me, but of what it would look like if she did. And I planned to make it look exactly as bad as she feared. I didn't think I'd last more than a week in that storage unit. The air was damp. The nights were loud with distant traffic and the creaking metal of expansion and contraction. And yet somehow I did. Maybe because silence, when it's all you have, starts to feel like company. By day 6, I had a routine. I used the gym nearby to shower. I ate cheap takeout in silence. I answered no calls. I watched the world through news apps and burner social profiles like I was studying a civilization I'd once belonged to, but had no intention of returning to. But I couldn't help myself that afternoon. I opened LinkedIn. It was a stupid impulse. I hadn't checked in months, but I wanted to know if Graham was real, more than just a name behind her laugh and those cheap poems in her inbox. And there he was, Graham S. Foley, Regional Development Director, Voyager Consulting. Big smile. Tailored suit. And right below it, a new post. A podcast interview, dated 2 days prior. Out of sheer curiosity, I clicked it. I expected buzzwords and corporate nonsense. What I didn't expect was her voice. Corley. Not mentioned in the title. Not tagged. But halfway through the 42-minute interview, the host asks, "You mentioned earlier that someone on your team has helped you most through this growth year. Want to give them a shout out?" And Graham, all charm and power, laughs and replies, "I should probably say the whole team, right? But nah, Corley M., my right hand. Couldn't have scaled this without her. She's been everything." Everything. Then the host teases, "Sounds like there's more to that story." To which Graham chuckles and adds, "Well, let's just say not every connection in business stays professional forever." They both laugh. He moves on. I don't. I replay that moment 3 times. 4. 5. Each time, it feels like she's in the room, saying it to my face without ever having to look me in the eye. But it wasn't the admission that did it. It was the certainty, the entitlement. Like they'd already decided what I was worth. Nothing. And moved on without needing to bury the body. That's when I realized something brutal. She hadn't been trying to reach me out of guilt. She was trying to control the narrative. She needed me quiet, cooperative, tucked away in a drawer labeled emotionally unstable, so she could have her shiny new career and her new relationship without complication. and I had been helping her by disappearing. So I made a decision. I wasn't going to beg, but I also wasn't going to stay buried. I contacted my brother. Trevor and I hadn't spoken much since Dad's funeral 2 years ago. He always thought Coralie was too polished and once told me, "That woman's wearing armor, not a wedding dress." I called from a blocked number and said only 5 words. "I need a place. 1 week." He didn't ask questions. That night, I left the storage unit. I didn't go back to our house. I didn't check if her car was there. I didn't leave a note. I didn't even look at the front door. I left like I never lived there. When I got to Trevor's, he handed me a spare key and said, "You want food, beer, or silence?" I said, "All 3. He nodded. "Start with beer." We didn't talk about Coralie that night. But the next morning, he handed me a folder. I opened it. Inside were printed screenshots, posts, comments, internal company memos. He said, "I did a little digging. You're not the only husband who got replaced." Turns out, Graham had a pattern. And Coralie wasn't the first. But she might be the first who didn't realize she was next. Trevor's folder wasn't just gossip. It was a blueprint of Graham's destruction trail. For different women from the same company, each one promoted rapidly under his mentorship, then quietly transferred or let go within 8 to 10 months. All of them had glowing LinkedIn profiles for about a year, and then silence. One had deleted everything. Another had rebranded herself as a freelance consultant. And the third? She posted a thinly veiled essay about professional boundaries and men who weaponize charm. Coralie was number 4. I didn't know whether to feel sorry for her or not. She made the choice. She let it happen. But it was becoming clear that she didn't understand what kind of man she'd thrown everything away for. That became obvious during the annual Voyager consulting retreat. Trevor had a friend who freelanced as an AV tech. He got me in. And before you judge me, I wasn't there to cause a scene. I didn't carry a sign or march up to the podium and shout, "That's my wife. You snakes." That's not who I am. But I was there to watch. And what I saw was everything. The venue was upscale, one of those corporate luxury resorts with fake waterfalls and networking stations, full of people trying too hard to pretend they weren't scared of each other. I sat in the back, tucked in the shadows near a media cart, wearing a plain black blazer and glasses I didn't need. Coralie walked in late. She looked different. Not bad. Not disheveled. Just off. Her hair was tied too tight. Her blazer was buttoned all the way up like armor, and she smiled like her face had forgotten how to move naturally. I couldn't tell if she knew Graham hadn't arrived yet. The event began. There were panels, slide decks, all the predictable jargon, growth opportunities, disruption models, and the golden lie. We're a family here. And then it happened. A woman from legal stepped up for a compliance update. Dry stuff? Nobody really pays attention. Until she dropped the line. Also, as of this week, all managerial relationships that involve direct reports will be reviewed and, if necessary, formally documented and restructured. Inappropriate fraternization will be addressed retroactively. The air shifted. You could feel it. Some people laughed nervously. Others exchanged glances. But Coralie? She froze. I watched her hand twitch against her notebook. She didn't look around. She didn't blink. She just stared forward like a statue that didn't get the memo that the war had already started. 10 minutes later, Graham walked in. Not from the back. From the side entrance near the stage, escorted by HR and a man I recognized from a news article about corporate ethics investigations. Graham didn't sit. He didn't speak. He just nodded to the woman at the podium and walked out the opposite exit. Whispers erupted. Coralie stood slowly, her eyes locked on the door like she wanted to chase him, or maybe scream at him. Maybe both. But she didn't. She sat back down. That was the moment I knew. She'd bet her entire life on a man who had already started cutting her loose. By the end of the day, her name was removed from the printed program schedule. She was supposed to co-lead a breakout session. It never happened. And me? I left through the lobby while people crowded the bar for overpriced cocktails, talking about who was next. I didn't stop to listen. I didn't gloat. I just walked into the cold air outside and breathed for the first time in what felt like a year. She hadn't seen me, but I saw her, and I saw what she looked like when she realized no one was coming to save her. That night, I got a text. Unknown number. No name. "Did you do this to me?" I didn't reply, but I wanted to. I wanted to write. "No, Coralie. You just finally ran out of people to blame." The next time Coralie texted me, It wasn't another vague accusation or guilt-soaked question. It was a photo. Just a photo. No caption. No emojis. No hey. No please. Just a shot of her sitting on the floor of what looked like a nearly empty apartment. Knees up, arms around her legs, mascara slightly smudged, her expression vacant like someone halfway between begging and blackout. And then, 4 dots appeared on the screen. Typing. Then disappearing. Then starting again. And stopping. Finally, a message came through. I need you to talk to the board. My stomach turned. No, I miss you. No, I'm sorry. No, you were right. Just a transaction. I didn't reply right away. I just stared at the message for a long time, and it wasn't anger that bubbled up first. It was confusion. After everything she did, this was her angle? I got up, walked out onto Trevor's balcony, and let the wind hit my face. Somewhere below, a neighbor's dog barked like it had been warning people about the same storm for years, and no one listened. I sat down in the old rocking chair Trevor kept out there and tried to make sense of what this woman thought was still possible between us. Then I called her. It rang 5 times before she answered. Lyle. Her voice cracked like she hadn't used it in hours. I said nothing. She tried again. Please don't hang up. I don't know who else to call. Try Graham, I said. Silence. He's gone, she said finally. He left the country. He's on sabbatical, according to PR. No calls. No emails. And I'm the one they're making the example out of. You're surprised? I asked. No, she admitted. I just thought he'd fight for me. And there it was. The raw truth. She hadn't just betrayed me. She'd replaced me. And now that replacement had ghosted her harder than I ever did. She continued. The board thinks I knew about his pattern. That I helped cover for him. But I didn't. I was just what, Coralie? I cut in. Lonely? Bored? Tired of your reliable husband who packed your lunch and paid the electric bill. She didn't answer. Instead, she said, they'd listen to you. If you told them I didn't manipulate anyone, that I wasn't some pawn. I laughed. Quietly. Bitterly. You weren't a pawn, Coralie. You were the queen. You moved first. You sacrificed the king. Another pause. Then, almost too soft to hear. I didn't expect to lose everything this fast. And that's when it hit me. She hadn't called because she wanted me back. She'd called because I was the last person left who still knew the full version of her life. She didn't want love. She wanted credibility. Let me guess, I said. The HR team pulled those old emails. The texts. The photos. You think if I speak on your behalf, it'll fix something. She didn't deny it. What she said instead was worse. Lyle, I just need someone to say I'm not a monster. And that broke me more than any betrayal. Because monsters don't think they're monsters. They think they're misunderstood. I ended the call without another word. I didn't block her, but I didn't reply again either. The next morning, I went to the post office and mailed a padded envelope. Inside was her old wedding ring, the one I found in the storage bin's junk box next to a bag of expired vitamins and a scratched-up curling iron. No note. No signature. Just the ring. By the time she got it, I knew she'd understand exactly what I was saying. I'm not your savior. I was your husband. And you ended that job before you ever lost the one you're begging to keep. 3 weeks passed. No new calls. No texts. No surprise knocks at Trevor's door. Nothing. I figured she got the message. Or maybe she didn't. Maybe she was still spinning in damage control, trying to reclaim a life she built on a foundation that cracked the moment someone saw her clearly. Either way, I was done being the invisible one. I spent those 3 weeks rebuilding quietly. Got back in touch with my team at work. Told them I'd had a health scare, which technically wasn't a lie. Emotional trauma can feel like a heart attack when you haven't breathed properly in months. I started walking every morning. No headphones. Just the cold air and the sound of my own feet finally going somewhere I chose. I got my hair cut, shaved the scruff, started sleeping better. And then, one morning, I stopped by a small bookstore cafe near the Riverwalk. I'd passed it a dozen times, but never gone in. The kind of place that smells like cinnamon, ink, and old wood. I sat by the window and ordered coffee. Just 1 cup this time. And that's when I met Nora. She wasn't flashy. No loud makeup or curated, I'm not trying outfit. Just a soft sweater, a leather notebook, and eyes that looked at you like she'd already figured out if you were lying to yourself. She asked if I was using the outlet under the seat. I said no. She smiled and sat down, plugging in her laptop. That's how it began. We talked for 20 minutes that first day. then 40 the next. By the end of the week, she brought me banana bread she'd baked and said she liked talking to someone who wasn't trying to sell anything. She didn't know anything about my past. Not yet. I didn't lead with betrayal or breakdowns or storage units. I just told her my name. And somehow that was enough. A few nights later, I got one last message from Coralie. I saw her name light up my phone, and, for a moment, I hesitated. But curiosity won. I opened it. I'm officially out. No job, no title, no Graham. Just me. I don't know if I'm relieved or terrified. I guess I just wanted to say I hope you're okay. I'm not asking for anything. Just that. I hope you're okay. I stared at it for a while. Not angry. Not sad. Just still. Then I archived it and placed my phone face down. I looked across the table at Nora, who was telling me about a book she was writing, and for the first time in years, I was fully present. Not haunted. Not hunting for signs. Just there. I didn't walk away from Coralie to punish her. I walked away because staying would have meant erasing myself to make someone else feel whole. And now, I don't need revenge. I don't need a dramatic speech or a final word. I have something better. Peace. And a second cup of coffee for someone who actually wants to sit across from me.